The New Energy Outlook is Bloomberg New Energy Finance's annual long-term view of how the world's power markets will evolve into the future. Cheaper coal and cheaper gas will not derail the transformation and decarbonisation of the world's power systems. From today until 2040, $11.4 trillion will be invested in power generation. Of that, an astonishing $7.8 trillion will be invested in renewable energy. This means that by 2040, 60% of the global power capacity will come from zero-emission energy sources. On the one hand, weaker coal and gas prices have reduced the cost of electricity from new fossil fuel power stations. On the other hand, wind and solar keep getting cheaper. Onshore wind will fall 41% by 2040, and solar costs will fall by 60%. This means these two technologies will be the cheapest ways of producing electricity in many countries during the 2020s, and in most of the world in the 2030s. The bulk of the $11.4 trillion will be invested in Asia-Pacific, which will add as much capacity in the next 25 years as the rest of the world combined. And half of that will be built in China, which, despite its current slowdown, will attract $2.8 trillion of new investment. Around 73% of capacity additions in China will be renewables, and coal capacity peaks in 2020 and coal generation in 2025. India is facing a rapid increase in electricity demand due to economic and demographic expansion and growing electrification. Coal will remain the dominant fuel through 2040, but solar too will begin to play a larger role, accounting for 29% of new power capacity. In the US, while gas will make up almost a third of capacity in 2040, renewables will see the bulk of investment over the next 25 years, reaching 50% of the power fleet in 2040, from less than a fifth today. In Europe, decarbonisation accelerates from 2025, with renewables rising to 70% of generation in 2040. Solar accounts for almost half of all new capacity. The rise of electric vehicles adds over 2,700 terawatt-hours, or 8% of power demand by 2040, offsetting the impact of ever better energy efficiency and pushing battery costs down 76%. Despite a global renewables boom, fossil fuels will maintain a 44% share of generation in 2040, down from two-thirds in 2015. Some 963 gigawatts of new coal-fired capacity will be added to 2040, almost exclusively in developing countries, where supply is relatively cheap and climate change policies weak or yet to be implemented. Emission reductions in the EU, US, and China are offset by steep increases in India and Southeast Asia. By 2040, global power sector emissions are still 5% higher than today. To bridge the gap to a 2-degree scenario, we would need another $5.3 trillion of investment in zero-carbon energy by 2040.